listeners. In today's episode, we're talking with Brianna from Brianna Michele Interiors. She's done over 500 short-term rentals since she started her business in 2019. This episode is packed full of insightful nuggets. Brianna covers her tips for hosts where she's like, do this tomorrow. And she also talks about her favorite products. So the products that are tried and true that she puts in a lot of her rentals, and some of her favorite brands to shop on Minoan. So give this one a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. And with that, we're going to talk to Brianna. So I'm really excited to have you, Brianna. Welcome to the show. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about your backstory and sort of how you got into this niche and what really drove you to this where strategy meets soul sort of perspective you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I started Brianna Michele Interiors in 2019, not really knowing it would evolve into what it is today. My background is in corporate marketing, so I spent almost a decade working in marketing and realizing that I really was craving more creativity. And so I started this side business. It really wasn't something that I thought was going to take off like it did. I was working alongside running the design business, designing first in residential, so for primary homes, for family, friends, and clients locally here in Southern California, and quickly realized once I started working with investors that there was this major gap in the short-term rental space. And so I decided to really immerse myself in this space and understand real estate, and quickly became obsessed with it myself, and my husband and I decided to buy our own first investment property. And then it was kind of history from there. I decided to niche the business around short-term rentals, and we've designed over 500 properties nationwide over the past few years.
Yeah, one thing that I thought was really interesting, in our last episode of Friend in Furnishing, we had Brooke Lestico from DB Dens, who has designed herself two really lovely properties. And when I asked her what she would do differently for the next one, she was like, I would work with a designer, which I thought was really interesting. What are some of the things you think that the benefits that come with working with a professional designer that maybe people underestimate or don't think as much about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of components to that. The big piece is definitely making sure that you're making data-backed decisions and that this is not just based off of aesthetics, that there's a strategy and intention behind every single design decision, making sure that we're really understanding the avatar that we're designing for, usage cases of like, what are these rooms actually going to function to be used for? How are they going to flow? What's the guest occupancy? So there's so many strategic decisions when it comes to short-term rental design. And so working with an expert that does this every single day, that isn't going to be overwhelmed with decision fatigue and understands that the strategy, the expertise is going to be invoked in all of those decisions, is just going to make you feel a lot more, I think, rest assured as an investor that you're putting your investment in the best of hands. There's so many little details throughout the entire design process that really matter when it comes to guest experience. And a lot of people don't realize how long that can take, and time is money when it comes to short-term rental investments. So we know that we want to get you guys up and running as soon as possible.
Totally. We're furnishing a 450 square foot office. I have been surprised by the level of detail and the optionality. Like, I'm like, wow, this feels like more complicated than I thought it would be. And it's like out of necessity, like we're trying to be really intentional about it. It's sort of like what we do at Minoan. As someone who has designed over 500 short-term rentals, I'd love to kind of get into your brain of like, what actually performs? Like, what have been some of the things that you've seen that really do drive ROI, and what are some maybe like red herrings or false flags where it's like, yeah, people make this investment, but it doesn't seem to really, the numbers actually end up not really supporting it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, when you think about short-term rentals, you think about, and even just putting yourself in a booker as a potential guest, is you're looking for an experience. So the key drivers are going to be those experience spaces first and foremost. So we always think about the common spaces. Where are people going to gather, spend time together, and relax and unwind? And then what are those amenity spaces potentially that you have at your property? Not all properties will, but if you have an outdoor experience, what does that look like? What are the things that you're going to be providing to your guests that they can enjoy while staying there? Do you have a game room? Do you have a theater? Those spaces really do pack a lot of punch when it comes to ROI. And so we do prioritize that when it comes to design. And that's also how we kind of apply budget too. Budgets are going to be prioritized in those spaces because we know those are really going to be the key drivers of why people book these properties. Where I see potentially where investors may get hung up on when it comes to maybe spending a little bit too much, or maybe spending in places that are not going to actually turn into maybe an increase in ADR or occupancy rate. Sometimes it comes down to like major renovation. Is it going to potentially limit your ability to get up and running and live and launched in time? Is it going to create a lot of major costly delays? I always try to make sure that if we do any of those things, that they're actually going to help your listing and they're going to help increase your marketability and the overall value of the home. And we're not just spending money just to spend money.
That's such an interesting observation. I think that really, I know your whole thing is where soul meets strategy. I think sometimes there can be a temptation, especially for first-time hosts, to like furnish it like a home, Well, I would want this wall over here, or I would want to do it this way, or I would really want these nicer linens. And that's where those go right into the strategy where it's like, turns out the linens, like you're going to be buying new ones in 6 months anyways. One thing we like to do is like product category deep dives. So I'd love to have you maybe we go deep on one category together, whether it's bedding, lighting, art, furniture. You could pick like one category that you're passionate about and we can get into it and just understand, how do you typically approach that category and those products with your clients?
I think sofas is a great place to start in that product category. Every property needs a sofa.
Yeah, let's talk sofas.
Yeah. I mean, sofas are hard in this space. Sometimes you're working with very specific dimensions of a room and you're trying to maximize seating occupancy. So you're naturally going to go for a sectional because a sectional is going to afford you more seats, and you're going to be able to potentially, right across from that sectional, add accent chairs and just being able to find the right sofa that's going to be able to last a test of time. There's that durability factor, the ease of clean. I don't think people realize, but you not only need to be sourcing based off of aesthetics, but also ease of turnover. Are your guests and your cleaners going to be able to maintain these furniture pieces? Are they going to be easily to clean and wipe off if something spills or anything happens? And so I think having that mindset too of being able to quickly maintain the items is going to be a really key factor when you're sourcing your materials and your products that you're putting into your short-term rental.
Yeah, the sofa is it's like an anchor point of the rooms that you're in. And it's funny, this came up in a previous episode with Jenica Newsom, who's also a marketer by day, short-term rental host by night. And we talked about her sofa. She was like, I just wanted to be able to wipe it. She's like, I just wanted to be able to wipe it down. And I thought that was really interesting. I never really thought about it that way. You always have a budget. You want to work within the budget, but there are like certain categories where you really don't want to skimp out and it's worth investing. And sort of the sit, sleep, or eat have been like the three that we've heard. And sitting is like where they're going to spend the most time. I think people spend a lot of time picking the right sofa. I mean, when we have an interesting vantage point where we can kind of see all the activity and the amount of times people quote and requote and sub out sofas, it's like it does feel like it's one of the higher stakes sort of decisions you'll make. I'd love to do a few fast like hosting and operational takeaways. Like if you had sort of quick tips that are like, do this tomorrow for hosts who are getting started, what would those be?
I think the little details really count. So don't overlook those details. And so I think we talked about bedding earlier. Bedding, your mattresses, those things really do count. So don't skimp on those areas. Your entry, making sure that kind of first initial experience when they're walking in. I think all of those things are really thoughtful and intentional. A fully stocked kitchen, you're going to see those things come up in reviews. Guests really do appreciate that they don't feel like they have to take everything from home and pack it with them because your property had everything that they were looking for and more. And so almost anticipating those needs before your guest even knows that they have those needs and wants. In the bedrooms, full-length mirrors, a luggage rack for them to put their belongings down and put their luggage away. I think a lot of it is just like putting yourself in the guest's shoes and how would you use these spaces and the functionality behind them. Room darkening curtains and just making sure layered lighting is such a huge piece to design that I think people don't really realize, but actually having really warm ambiance lighting throughout the property. And that's layered, so you're not only kind of relying on overhead lighting, but you have task lighting, you have picture lights, you have lamps and floor lamps and all the things that really bring the space to life. And I think another piece is textiles too. So like that cozy relaxation piece to short-term rentals, so the rugs, the throw pillows, the throw blankets, those really are the elements that complete the space. And so I think sometimes people are like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Like I got the sofa, I got the coffee table, but I totally forgot to like dress the sofa, dress the bed. And those are really important details that translate really well in photos and really make a space feel complete.
That was like probably the best advice in the shortest amount of time, I think, for any of us getting started. So that was very rich. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe we can end with some fun rapid fire questions. So I have a few here, but one would be one product you think is wildly overrated.
I think sometimes like when you're looking at accent furniture or decorative pieces, sometimes you can see that if they're potentially costing more than like the foundational piece of furniture in the room, it usually should be like a reason for you to second guess, like, oh, is this the right move? Like, if this decorative element is stolen or broken and I'm spending $800 on it, my bed was only like $500, like, was that the right choice? And so I think just the decorative elements sometimes can be really overrated.
Yeah. It's almost like if it could fit in a suitcase, you should underwrite in the risk that it could be stolen.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
And I do think that like people just have their heart broken. They get really, really nice, thoughtful things that are smaller, and then a few months
Yeah.
in, they're like the cleaner's like, "Hey, this is gone." It's like, "What?"
I
And
know.
I do think that's good advice.
But yeah, no, that's a great sentiment that just be mindful. This is a business at the end of the day.
Totally. What about one product category people underinvest in?
So, I mean, the interiors really do matter. I mean, of course, I named my business with interiors at the end of it. So I know it's incredibly important. But your outdoor furnishings, I think a lot of people don't realize that there needs to be some clear investment for it to withstand weather and elements outside, especially in certain markets where you've salt in the air or wind or dust or snow. Like, it's really important to invest in all weatherproof outdoor furnishings. And so I see a lot of the time where clients are like very surprised, like, oh my gosh, that was so much for that outdoor fire pit moment where we did Polywood, Adirondack chairs, surrounding that fire pit moment. And I think people don't realize that, yes, it is a little bit more investment, but there's a 20-year warranty and it's going to stand the test of time and they're going to be so easy to keep clean. You're never going to have an issue. Or you could just buy the like cheaper plastic option that you see online and you're like, ooh, like that doesn't look great in photos and it's going to potentially break on a guest. So there's just really a clear difference between the guest experience once you just invest a little bit more in outdoor furnishing.
Yeah. I was just actually going to ask you if you had a preferred brand, but you already said Polywood is like, they're
Top
just
tier.
so tried and true. And it's like, if you don't buy Polywood the first time, you're probably going to buy it the second time. Are there any like brands for linens or for soaps and shampoos or for mattresses? I'd be kind of curious. Are there any products where you're like, I honestly do put these in like the majority of projects because it's just so good. I'd be curious.
Yeah. You mentioned toiletries earlier, like soaps, and we love public goods, and that's what I have in my personal short-term rental.
Yeah.
And we recommend in every project of ours too. We just think, one, it's sustainable, it looks great, it's super clean and minimalistic, and I think it will work with really any kind of design style, whatever direction that you go in. As far as brands go, we love the Wayfarers. We love those options. And I think they have so many great price point tiers too in that as well. You can actually find, I'm like sitting on a Wayfair chair right now. It's four hands and this is like an investment piece.
Wayfair has like 22 million SKUs.
Yeah.
They have, certainly, if you want inexpensive stuff, they have it. But they also have like everything. It truly is every style, every home. And the shipping is really like, it's so crucial with short-term rentals, like just being able to get stuff quickly. We see that all the time.
As far as different kind of, I just talked about sofas earlier, but we've really been liking Burrow lately. Polly and Marc, we always have loved their sofas. They have the best sleeper sofa ever, I think. I'm very critical of sleeper sofas. I'm not a big fan of them in short-term rentals, but we will do them at the very kind of like the last-ditch effort to add that occupancy. We'll do it.
Yeah.
And if we do it, I want it to be a proper like mattress pull-out sofa that's going to feel comfortable. For whoever ends up on that, unfortunately, we want them to feel as comfortable as possible. So those are some of our tried and true brands that I'd say. But we love them all. We love Crate and Barrel. We love some of those, more kind of luxury brands. So that's why I think Minoan's great, because you're able to source from anywhere and you can really figure out what's going to be here on time for when you need the property to be guest ready.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and drop some knowledge, and really appreciate you just as a partner in our business. We love working with you, and you have very, very happy clients, and the properties always look great.
Thank you. And same for me. We love working with Minoan, so you guys are the best.